Again, court papers in relation to APC presidential candidates' antecedents in the United States and some of the issues in his past resurfaces, posing several questions. We get some reactions and official clarifications on the issues. And the PDP G5 today visited Bauchi State, where they met with Governor Bala Muhammad in a bid to help him in his re-election bid. Hello everyone, welcome to the program. This is Politics Today live on Channels Television. I'm Sean Baloye in Abuja. Some news coming in right now about the activities of President Muhammadu Buhari in England. The president, we understand, has met with His Royal Majesty, the King of England, Charles III, in Buckingham Palace. The meeting gave President Muhammadu Buhari an opportunity to personally congratulate King Charles on his ascension to the throne. This is the first time both leaders are meeting after Charles III became the King of England. Both leaders had discussions on bilateral relations and how the UK could help Nigeria fight terrorism. We'll bring you details right here on the program. Stay with me, and some of the pictures that are coming in, which you'll be seeing right here on the program. But let's begin by letting you know what happened today in Bauchi, especially as relating to the People's Democratic Party. There might be some possibility of settlement in the current internal crisis rocking the PDP. Governor Nyesom Wike of Rivers State says he and his allies are open to reconciliation with the leadership of the PDP. The aggrieved PDP governors, now known as the PDP G5, visited the Bauchi State Governor Bala Muhammad, and Governor Wike said they never closed the door for reconciliation. The governor and his supporters have been asking for the removal of the national chairman of the PDP, Senator Yocha Ayu. Well, I'll allow you to listen to some of the sound bites coming from Bauchi, from the G5 governor and, of course, the host governor.
I want to say that was not what I meant when I was captured saying that. But all the same, I know that it will amount to logical fallacy if people have taken it the way I did. But I want to say to those who are offended by my remarks, I didn't mean that. I'm sorry about it.
You are aware it is no longer a secret that I wrote a letter to the party on my position in Bauchi. What I have found out to be working against me as a leader and as a first-term governor going for my second term. And I wrote it with all honesty and sincerity and with a deep sense of fidelity. And that is why the party invited me to go and discuss with the flag bearer of the PDP, our leader, Alhaji Atiku Abubakar. And we discussed extensively, and I have gotten some explanations because the letter I wrote was not only written by me, it was written by the PDP family in Bauchi and the government of Bauchi. And that is why I was there and we discussed extensively. As for the G5 governors, I always joke with them that I'm a G1, but I'm inexorably connected with them. We have always been together, and you know it. Governor Wike, Governor Otom, Governor Fezua, and of course Ogwanyi, they have been here several times, and I have gone to them several times. And I think this is some of the takeaways I have as a governor, having friends for life. So I'm everywhere, but of course it doesn't mean that I'm nowhere. Thank you very much.
I have stated severally that we are here for reconciliation. We have never closed the door for reconciliation. All we are saying for equity, fairness, and justice. That's not, in fact, that is the hallmark of what PDP stands for equity, fairness, and what? Justice. We are here, we have never closed door, and we will not close door. All we are saying, look, let the right thing be done. If the right thing is done, you see how the whole place will be, the whole country will know that the election is over. This is the bedrock of the party. This G5 you are seeing, we are the bedrock of the party. So we will not close the door for reconciliation. We are open for reconciliation any day, anytime.
But then you heard the governors allow you to listen to a reasonable chunk of what they said, so you can make for yourself what is really going on within the rank and file of the People's Democratic Party. Now, tonight, we will focus our attention and try to make sense of the antecedents of Bola Ahmed Tinubu, the presidential candidate of the APC. There are two major issues that have come out of the United States, and these matters have come as far as 1993. And now, these issues relating to narcotics, and they are, on the other hand, relating to money laundering, and some of the court papers emanating from the courts in the United States. Where does Mr. Bola Tinubu stand in all of this? What are the real issues? Is there anything still hanging over his head on this matter? We'll look at it. What are the implications on his mandate as a ticket bearer of the APC presidential campaign? Now, we check out some of your political roundup stories, and when we come back, we will be having an upfront and personal conversation with the official of the APC, Mr. Festus Keyamo. Let's take a listen to your political roundup stories now.
About 176 supporters of the PDP in Borno State have sustained injury as hoodlums attacked the vehicles in the convoy of the presidential candidate of the PDP, Atiku Abubakar, shortly after leaving the palace of the Shehu of Borno to the venue of the presidential rally, Ramat Square, Maiduguri. The PDP presidential candidate, while addressing supporters amidst cheers, sympathized with the injured and said no amount of intimidation can stop the PDP from sending the ruling APC packing from Asurok and the Borno State Government House. The presidential candidate of the New Nigeria People's Party, NNPP, Musa Rabiu Kwankwaso, says Nigerians will not vote for any individual who campaigns on sentiments for the office of president, away from capacity to deliver on the job when elected. The former Kano State governor made this remark in Abakaliki, the Ebonyi State capital, today after he was received by Governor Dave Umahi, represented by his deputy, Kelechi Igwe, at the government house. The presidential hopeful thanked the government of Ebonyi State for the warm reception granted him and his team. He went further to state that nobody should personalize becoming president in 2023. A federal high court in Abuja has fixed the 15th of December 2022 for hearing of a 100 billion naira suit filed against President Muhammadu Buhari over an alleged unlawful removal of Senator Ifeanyi Ararume as a non-executive chairman of the newly incorporated Nigerian National Petroleum Company, NNPC. Senator Ararume is claiming the sum from the federal government as damages caused him in the alleged unlawful and unconstitutional way and manner he was removed as the NNPC chairman after using his name to incorporate the entity. At the hearing of the suit, Justice Inyang Eko ordered that the Corporate Affairs Commission be joined as a party in the suit in the absence of an objection from Mr. Chris Uche, who represented Ararume, and Al Hassan Shuaib, who represented President Muhammadu Buhari. Justice Eko subsequently fixed December the 15th for further mention into the suit and ordered that the amended originating summons be served on parties before the adjourned date. A former governor of Adamawa State and member of the APC Presidential Campaign Council, Mr. Balangilari, has assured the Christian community in the state that they will not regret voting for the APC presidential candidate Bola Tinubu at the 2023 general elections. The former governor stated this during a sensitization program organized for the APC supporters in Yola, the Adamawa State capital.
You look at the antecedents of people, what they have done in the past, to be able to make a projection into the future about them. By the grace of God, a chapter will be open for us Christians, particularly in the north.
The national coordinator of the National APC Supporters Center is calling on Nigerians to vote for the presidential candidate of the APC, Senator Bola Tinubu, in the 2023 presidential election. Addressing journalists in Abuja, Mr. Ibrahim Batati says the APC presidential candidate Bola Tinubu will consolidate on the achievements of President Muhammadu Buhari if voted in as president. The Independent National Electoral Commission has been asked to include the name of Mr. Moses Ebosetale as the authentic candidate of the People's Democratic Party for Esan Northwest Local Government Area of Edo State. Addressing a news conference in Abuja, Mr. Luke Okun, lawyer to Mr. Ebosetale, says the judgment of the Federal High Court being delivered on the 22nd of September 2022 in favor of Moses Ebosetale as the authentic candidate of the PDP, INEC is under obligation to publish his name for the 2023 Edo State House of Assembly election.
The court, in her judgment, delivered on the 27th day of September 2022 by Honorable Justice S.M. Shuaibu, Judge of the Federal High Court, Benin, ruled in favor of her client, Matthew Duere Kimen, the Speaker, and others.
The governorship candidate of African Democratic Party in Abia State, Sunday Onoha, is calling for the establishment of Peace Commission to address the crisis between host communities in Ohafia and the Nigerian Army barracks. Mr. Sanders stated this when he visited the IDP camp in Amango, Ohafia. He notes that the commission, if established, will bring more development to communities. And ahead of the forthcoming general election, non-indigenes in Ogun State, the Hausa and Igbo communities, have pledged support for the presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party, Atiku Abubakar, and his vice, Senator Ifeanyi Okowa. Speaking with journalists during a rally held at the Akepala's ground in the state capital, the group maintains that Atiku Abubakar has the capacity to end insecurity, fix the ailing economy, among other challenges facing the country, if elected in 2023.
Well, then let me take you back to our earlier story about President Muhammadu Buhari and his visit in the United Kingdom. We can tell you that the president has met with His Royal Majesty King of England Charles III at the Buckingham Palace. The meeting gave President Muhammadu Buhari an opportunity to personally congratulate King Charles on his ascension to the throne. This is the first time both leaders are meeting after King Charles III became the King of England. President Buhari was on a medical trip to the UK and on Sunday met with the Moroccan ambassador to the UK, Hakim Majoy, who delivered a personal message from King Mohammed of Morocco to the president. It has been several years of scrutiny and critical appraisal of the past and antecedents of the former governor of Lagos State and the presidential candidate of the All Progressives Congress, Bola Tinubu. Years ago, there were controversies over his educational qualifications, people trying to find out what he went to do in Chicago, whether really he graduated or had any degree from that school. And there have also been series of questions on drug-related matters, not matter of narcotics, and in fact, matters bordering on money laundering. Now, a court paper from the United States District Court for the Northern District of Illinois surfaced, where there are claims that Bola Tinubu's encounter with American authorities over allegations of narcotics, trafficking, and money laundering. These issues have come up, and again, some of these court papers have resurfaced, raising a very fundamental questions on the personality, the character, and the history or antecedents, the profile of the man who is the flag bearer of the APC presidential ticket. Now, the APC Presidential Campaign Organization has been reacting, saying the claims are not founded and they are baseless. But tonight, we'll be getting some explanations, official one, on this matter. And I'm being joined by the official spokesperson of the APC Presidential Campaign Organization and Director of Public Affairs and Senior Advocate of Nigeria, Mr. Festus Keyamo, who is also the Minister of State for Labor. He joins us live from our Lagos studio. Thank you so much, Leonard Sik, for joining us tonight.
Thank you.
Let's start by first and foremost allowing you to explain to Nigerians the position of your principal and perhaps giving you the opportunity to explain what really happened. I mean, one can guess that there might not be any kind of convictions, but there was some kind of indictment. But you are a senior lawyer. Explain to us the stories or the issues Bola Tinubu had in relation to first narcotics and that of money laundering.
Well, thank you, Aishewu. This is all a storm in a teacup, nothing more than that. The issue is not a new issue. So let me first of all say that. You saw some blogs or some news sites, online sites, making those normal wild introductions like breaking news, just in, fresh facts. No. Those are not fresh facts. They are not new issues. These issues have been in the public domain for more than 20 years, and the issues have been sufficiently addressed and dismissed. Being here today really is out of deference to perhaps younger voters who may think that these are new issues, and out of respect, for Nigerians generally, to come and further explain, really. But if you ask me, none of these allegations deserve any explanation again, because they have been explained over and over again. But let me go straight to the issues like you've mentioned. Yes, there is a simplistic letter, a letter that is simple enough. We can go straight to that first of all, from the US government in 2003, that says that that letter was signed by the legal attaché to the US Embassy in Lagos, that says that they investigated or made inquiries from the government of the United States, and they came to the conclusion, officially they wrote back, one Michael Bonnet or so, wrote back at that time saying that there was no indictment, no criminal indictment, no conviction, nothing of that sort regarding Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu. But what was the background to that? The background to that was that in 2003, months preceding the re-election of Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu as governor of Lagos State, there were several petitions from even within his own party, the Alliance for Democracy. So the screening committee at that time, had to raise alarm to the party that, well, they didn't want to put the ticket of the AD in Lagos State in danger, because they were scared that perhaps many of those petitions that were written against Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu may have some substance. And there were these allegations, like you have said. This was, of course, like, nearly 20 years ago. There were these allegations, these same allegations, nothing more than that. These same papers were obtained. These same papers were submitted to the AD screening committee. And so the chairman of the AD, Alliance for Democracy at that time, I think Prince Ogunleye, was forced to write to the CP, then Arabame, CP Lagos, then the later Arabame, and say, look, can you get in touch with your colleagues in the US, the law enforcement agencies, and tell us whether there's any truth in these petitions, so that they didn't want to, they wanted to determine whether to give Asiwaju the ticket again, the second-term ticket to run as governor of Lagos State. And so it was his own party, out of, pure altruistic motive. They wanted to get to the truth of the matter. The then Arabame, the later Arabame, now CP then, escalated the matter to the IG, Lagos, then Tafa Balogun, who is also now late. Tafa Balogun, at his level of the IG of police, now wrote an official letter to the United States, to the embassy in Lagos, to say, can you give us a response, the Nigerian government, a response, as to whether Asiwaju was involved in any of such, issues. There was, therefore, sometime investigation. They contacted the FBI in the United States. And then the FBI, supplied the information to the embassy in Lagos. And then the Michael Bonnet wrote back to the Inspector General of Police, Tafa Balogun, and said, look, we have official confirmation from the United States that there was no criminal indictment, no conviction, no criminal charge against Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu. But then, was that the end of the matter? No, because his distractors kept bringing up these issues over and over at every point in time, when his political profile is rising, when he wants to run for office, or, any political turn, in his life, they will bring up these issues. And then these issues have surfaced again. But then let me go back, really, like you mentioned, to what happened. Because there was a case. Papers are flying up and down. And at this point in time, even though we have confirmed there's no conviction, even though we have confirmed he's fit to run for office, even though we have confirmed that he has met all the constitutional requirements to run for office. But there are papers, after all. They are certified true copies. Now, the dates on the papers mentioned, the papers are flying up and down. The date of the certification is 2022. So they are using this to confuse people that these are fresh papers coming from the United States. Let me explain this to non-lawyers. If documents are 40 years old or even 100 years old in court, once you go to court and apply for certified true copy of those documents, they will give you those documents, but they will stamp the day they are giving you those documents. In other words, they are putting a stamp of the day those documents are certified. So they are not fresh documents. It's just the stamp of certification to confirm that you have just requested for them. Now, so this is what the detractors and the PDP and these people, perhaps that's what they went to the US for, when they pretended that they went to for high-level engagement. This is part of the high-level engagements they went for, just to go and deceive Nigerians and bring out washed-out papers that are totally dead as dodo. They brought them back to Nigerians, and they said freshly issued court papers in the US. They are not freshly issued. They have just been certified by the US court. But then go into those documents. Let's go into those documents. What happened? Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu was not even a defendant in that case. That will shock you, right? It will shock you. But go back to the documents. It was an action in rem, not an action in personam. For those who are law students or who are non-lawyers, let me explain. An action in rem is an action where you proceed against properties, not against the person. So what they did at that time was that they proceeded against certain accounts. And those accounts bore companies that were linked to Bola Tinubu or the ones personally held by him. Those accounts were 10 accounts in 3 banks. 10 accounts, let me repeat. 10 different accounts in 3 different banks. More, accounts legitimately opened by him, opened, in normal procedure by him. They didn't find any problem with that. And there were funds that he kept saving, where he was keeping his savings in the US. So, as I speak with you, if you want to know whether there is a criminal charge against somebody, you must have a complainant. So you will see the state versus so and so person. You must see that. And then you must have a charge number. You must have a charge number if there's a charge against anybody. There is no charge number in those documents. The documents also reflect the titles of plaintiff and defendants. A criminal process does not bear the title plaintiff, Shehu. A criminal process does not. Please permit me the modesty at this point, because I keep mentioning these things, to tell you, and the modesty to tell you that I'm not just a lawyer, Shehu, and I want you to pick a biro and a paper to begin to take notes, because I know you are a student, a law student. So this is also a lecture session for you. Take a biro and paper. A charge must contain a charge number. It must contain the title of a complainant or the state versus a defendant or an accused person. There is no such in all of those documents. If you look at those documents too, Asiwaju Bola Tinubu was not mentioned as a defendant. They've skipped that. It was only account numbers that were mentioned, and at the end of the day, they just said account numbers in the name of Tinubu. That is all. Not that Tinubu was a defendant. It was account in his name, not him. Those accounts were sued, not him. It was action in rem. So there is no charge. There was no charge. There was no indictment. There was no criminal process. It was a purely civil process against those accounts. But then what happened against those accounts? Now, there was an affidavit by somebody called Kevin Moss. Kevin Moss is just a normal prosecutor you see, like we were in the EFCC. Like I said, let me just be a little immodest. Immodest in the sense that I'm not just a lawyer, I'm not just a member of the inner bar, a senior advocate. I am one of the most experienced criminal prosecutors in this country. Private prosecutors, apart from 1 or 2 persons who are private prosecutors, who were also, former, graduates, in quotes, of Ganifa. I have done more prosecution, like I said, apart from 1 or 2, more prosecution as a private prosecutor, private, in the entire country today. Up to the point I became a minister, a day before, I was in court prosecuting. on behalf of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission and other law enforcement agencies. They have hired my services over the years. So my prime area is criminal prosecution. So I can say this with all aplomb and confidence, apart from being a fellow of international arbitration. So nobody can teach me anything about criminal procedure. This is the same thing we do here in Nigeria. What they did in the case of Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu was therefore to file what they call an interim process for forfeiture. It was not a final process. In that interim process they filed, they just, the Kevin Moss, all those the positions you see there about narcotics and all that, it was not a judgment of the court. It was an opinion of a prosecutor trying to convince the court to issue a forfeiture order. So nobody should see those positions that begin to shout, hey, US have done this, or US have said this, or no. It was not an opinion of a court. It was not an opinion of an institution. It was just the opinion of a prosecutor trying to convince the court to issue a forfeiture order.
Yeah, you said that. You've said that a few times. No, I allowed you to explain to Nigerians, first and foremost, the exalted #1 seat of Nigeria is such a respected one that anyone who is who wants to fill that seat must come with some level of integrity. And the reasons why we are having this conversation is for Nigerians who will decide to be able to know who they are voting for. Now, and I've allowed you to explain the ramifications, not thinking that you're talking to me directly, you're talking to Nigerians. But first and foremost, I'd like to ask you some very quick questions. First and foremost, were the account numbers involved that of Bola Tinubu?
Yes, not only him, companies were linked to, and his relatives. People should take note of that. His relatives.
All right.
Including his mother, including his aged mother, that Elijah Mogaji. So what do you want to do? You want to link her to what?
I said, just a moment, just a moment, Senior Advocate. I said I have quick questions, and I like you because it's the background to the next questions. I mean, the series of questions I'm going to ask you. Did Bola Tinubu contest or concede ownership of the account numbers?
He did not. He actually owned up to them at a point. At a point when they were calling him on phone, if you look at the affidavit of Kevin Moss, perhaps he skipped 1 or 2 accounts who were in the UK, because normally, like we do in the EFCC, they will first of all ask for your disclosure of all your properties and accounts once you are brought in. It's a standard procedure. They will ask for it. Up until the point when I was appointed minister, this case of Ekweremadu you are seeing, let me even give something to Nigerians that they will understand. This matter of Ekweremadu you are hearing, I started it. I filed, it was the same kind of application that I filed for interim forfeiture, but that does not mean he's guilty. We only found property traced to Ekweremadu that he could perhaps come forward and explain to Nigerians or to the EFCC at that time, or to the Special Investigation Panel. I was acting for the Special Investigation Panel before the EFCC took over the case. I started the Ekweremadu case. I applied. I filed the application in court. This same kind of application. It does not mean we found him guilty. But in that affidavit, I also deposed to this kind of affidavits by Kevin Moss. I deposed to it. I deposed to it to say, look, by investigation, we found out that, well, some of these properties were linked to him. He should come forward and explain how he acquired these properties. And so it was a presumption. These processes are processes of mere presumption. So they found monies in his accounts. They said, well, they needed to come forward. And in that affidavit of Kevin Moss, they said they interviewed Mobile. Mobile said, yes, this man is a treasurer in the Mobile. But they said, no, those funds are not from them. But they confirmed his status, not as a criminal, but as a respectable employee of Mobile. It is in the affidavit of Kevin Moss. Now, after all the rigmarole, look at paragraph 38 of the affidavit by Kevin Moss. I want everybody to look at paragraph 38. After the rigmarole of trying to find out whether the account, where the monies came from, whether they were linked to drug and all of that, it was all speculative. They came to the conclusion that the proceeds he got from the tax, the deposit he made there what they call, what these bankers normally call investments. He kept the money there and he was getting profit on the interest. They said he had not paid tax on those interests. That is all. And guess what? The banks are supposed to deduct the tax from source. I have done investments before. When you put money in banks, when you go and collect your interest at the end of the month, they will pay you minus the tax. They will refund the tax to the federal government. So it was not like a deliberate act.
Mr. Keyamo, if I may quickly ask you, and I have very short questions also.
Yes.
Would you liken the settlement that Bola Tinubu had with a court in the United States at the time over these monies as a sort of a plea bargain?
No. A plea bargain, you cannot build something on nothing and expect it to stand. A plea bargain must arise out of a criminal charge. Like I said, there is no charge, nothing anywhere, nothing like a charge anywhere. All he did, in fact, if you look at that, let me just refer you to it. Shehu, this is for just a moment.
You established
this is for 30 seconds.
That there was a forfeiture. Just for a moment. You established that there was a forfeiture. But if there was a forfeiture that was made, and that kind of forfeiture is still subsisting, and it has a criminal nature, that has not been set aside up to date.
No. A forfeiture, you see, that's why I said you should take a paper and a biro. This is a lecture class for you. A forfeiture is not something hanging on your neck. It's a permanent settlement, and everybody will shake your hands and go your way. Now, look at that settlement signed by the counsel to Asiwaju then and the counsel to the state, to the United States. I want you to look at paragraph 6, page 2 of that settlement. I refer you again, paragraph 6, page 2 of the settlement signed. In that paragraph 6, they were even begging Asiwaju. They said that, look, please don't proceed against us again. This is a final settlement between us. Go your way, we go our way. Out of the 10 accounts, it was only one account, the one in Heritage Bank, that they took $460,000 as their tax on his interest, as tax on interest, that he benefited from the deposits he made, that the investments he made in those accounts. And they gave him 9 accounts. In fact, all the monies in Heritage Bank was not taken. They took only 460, calculated as a tax, and said, please go your way. Now, I want you to look at that paragraph 6. They were begging him. The lawyers, the United States, they were begging. These documents, in fact, rather than indict Asiwaju, these documents exculpate him and makes him as white as snow. These documents make him a white. They were begging him to say,
Mr. Keyamo,
yes.
I am allowing you to explain, and this is a very serious matter.
Yes.
It's not about me. So, I mean, you kept repeating, take a pen and paper. You are speaking to millions of Nigerians.
No.
And I want you to be, to take cognizance of the fact that the sensibilities of millions of Nigerians are in this matter that you're speaking with. So I don't want us to take it lightly at all. So you're not speaking to me, you're speaking to Nigerians of which you have come to equity and you're explaining to them what these matters are. We'll take a break. But when we come back, there are still very fundamental issues relating to the source of the money in question. The association and organization Bola Tinubu is said to have belonged to, and a lot of issues that I'll probably bring up, and some of the facts that I've presented itself. Stay with me. Our conversation with Mr. Festus Keyamo continues right after this break, everyone. Join us again. Thank you so much, everyone. Let's get back to the conversation with the official spokesperson of the APC Presidential Campaign Organization and the Director of Public Affairs, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, Mr. Festus Keyamo, who is been speaking with us from our Lagos studio on the issues relating to claims of engagement in drug and money laundering allegations against the presidential candidate. Mr. Keyamo, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Let me get back to the conversation. And the question that a lot of Nigerians would like you to answer tonight, and perhaps they probably would have wanted to even hear directly from the man in question, your presidential candidate, Bola Tinubu. But there's a fundamental question on the source of the money he deposited, of which he reached a settlement. Has he given a satisfactory explanation of the source of the funds?
Well, thank you so much. Now, at that point, the burden was on the prosecution in the US, or from the states in the US, to prove that the funds were proceeds of narcotics. Now, that if you look at paragraph, I want you to go to paragraph 2 of the affidavit of Kevin Moss. He kept saying that it was his reasonable suspicion. It was like probable cause, probable belief. It was speculative. All it was speculative. They had not come to a definite conclusion. Let me tell you what happened. Now, if you see the whole gamut of that affidavit, it was more or less like, well, you know, it happens to all of us, Nigerians. You go to a new land, you go to a new place abroad. Any Nigerian you see, especially from your own tribe, they become like brothers to you. You associate with them, you visit them. You may do 1 or 2 transactions. You may not exactly know what they are involved in. You may not know what they are involved in. It happens to all of us. And you can see that the whole of that investigation actually touched on 2 or 3 Nigerians. So let me admit that. That had nothing to do with Asiwaju. And I don't want to mention their names here. People should go and read about it because they have families in Nigeria. The other Nigerians, two of them, who were actually linked to narcotics. One of them was actually arrested. That one made confessional statements and confessed another Nigerian as the one involved. But that principal suspect, read that affidavit, never mentioned the name of Asiwaju. What happened? Asiwaju went to open an account. The address by which he opened the account was an address already, you know, used by these people. I think some block of flats. Maybe he happened to be in that block of flats too. So they now linked it to say, oh, well, these other people they were investigating for narcotics, they are in the same address used by Asiwaju to open that account. So that is what is there. I cannot deviate from it. They also said, after I opened the account, after some time, I wanted to explain, sorry. I wanted to explain. Can I go on?
Yeah, because he's in line. What I'm going to ask you is in line with what you were saying.
Yeah, so because I want to be honest.
Aware? Because the version of the story,
I want to be honest. That's why I'm going along with it and explain it.
Just a moment. Just a moment. Let me push the question so that you can put it together.
Yes.
The version of the story you're saying tonight, and for those who are a bit more privy to what really happened, there are allegations, and I don't know if you are aware, that your principal was a member of a drug cartel for which is said to, in fact, they say he was a treasurer. And I was asking you about the source because this is going to premise the question I'm going to ask next. So I'd like you to also be careful in the answer so that my next question might be favorably answered too. Go ahead, please.
Thank you so much. Please do not deviate from the affidavit. I want everybody to fact check the 2 of us. There was no, they never mentioned him as the treasurer. They said he was treasurer of Mobile. They never said he was treasurer of any narcotics group. What they said was that he was found to have worked for an organization, owned by the people they were investigating. That he worked for that organization, that distribution organization. He worked for them without going into details, without having any proof of it. I'm very careful about the phrase that was used in that affidavit by Kevin Moss. Because you see, with a trained eye and the trained eye of a prosecutor, I read every line one by one. I've done this more than 10 years ago and came to the conclusion that Asiwaju had nothing to do with this. Because I read this more than 10 years ago. So I read it with a trained eye. So that is the phrase. If a prosecutor is looking for something to nail him, you have to go to that particular paragraph that now links Asiwaju. After they went all the rigmarole of investigating those 2 individuals, Nigerian, they now came to the point of Asiwaju. They now came to the point that where they now found out that part of the friends, relatives, that's what they use, friends and relatives, who worked for that organization owned by these people was somebody known as Asiwaju. That is all, that Tinubu. That's how they came to that. That's how they came to link him. Normally, they do that as a sweeping investigation. Yeah. Let me explain to you, because as a prosecutor, you do that in a sweeping manner. When you are investigating a crime, anybody linked in terms of transfer of funds to and fro from the person's account to your account, as a standard procedure, they will investigate everybody who paid money into and withdrew money from that account. It's standard procedure. But after all of it, they will now let me
then push this here. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, Senior Advocate, let me refer you to Section 137 of the Constitution 1D, subsection 1D, which says that a person under a sentence of imprisonment or fine for any offense involving dishonesty or fraud by whatever name it's called, or for any other offenses imposed on him by any court or tribunal shall not be qualified to contest for the office of the President of Nigeria. In view of the forfeiture and the settlement that Bola Tinubu had in the United States. As a senior advocate of Nigeria, what are the legal implications of that circumstance, considering the Section 137, subsection 1D of the Constitution?
Well, forfeiture is not a fine, you know. I don't want to refer to you again. When I say I'm educating, this is like a class we are having. But I don't, for all those who think, for law students everywhere, who think forfeiture is a fine. Fine is a punishment. Fine is a consequence of a conviction. Fine is a consequence of a criminal trial. So fine has nothing to do with forfeiture. Forfeiture is a civil process. It's a complete civil process to say, well, we are not even going into trial at all. The state goes into forfeiture proceedings with individuals just for the purpose of getting their monies. It does not mean you have committed a crime. You may have not fulfilled the obligation as a citizen regarding financial payment, just like tax. You have, at that point, he had not fulfilled his financial obligations regarding the deposits that were made there and the interest on those deposits. And so they say, well, you know what? Out of these 10 accounts, we are going to take our interest. And you know, for them, tax is oil, is their oil. All over Europe and America, don't play with their tax. So they all say, well, we are going to take our tax because you deposited money here, you were taking interest on it, you've not paid tax on those interests. So if you look at paragraph 38, that is the crux of the whole thing. So it is not, that concern you cited, Shehu, is completely, totally inapplicable. It has nothing to do with forfeiture. It has nothing to do with that. Nothing.
That's your perspective. But let me allow you.
No, that is the law. That is the law. It's not my perspective. That is the law.
That's your argument, and you
it's the law.
Debated on that. But let me allow you to listen. I mean, you can argue on the position of the law. It depends on the court to be able to see it differently or see it the way you see it. But let me allow you to listen to two lawyers. First is Dele Farotimi, and I'd like you to listen and react to the perspective they have on this Bola Tinubu matter.
The man is an indicted drug money launderer is not in argument, but convicted. No, I don't believe that is the case. There is an indictment and there is money forfeiture based on a no contest plea by Mr. Tinubu himself, but he didn't go as far as a conviction as far as I can tell. You can't look at this in isolation. And I say you can't look at this in isolation, especially in the light of what the High Court just said, that the man has to come and defend the case in the High Court here, seeking to disqualify him. There are plethora of allegations sufficient to have allowed any right-thinking person to have withdrawn from the race. But the man has persisted. So if we are now dealing with legalese, which is different from morality. If we're dealing with legalese, the reality is that you cannot ask him not to run solely on the basis of an indictment to which he had pleaded no contest. If you're looking at the issue of certificates, forgeries, the issue of a lack of provenance or pedigree, where did the man go to secondary school, primary school, what happened in the first years of his life, like he disappeared, like Jesus disappeared for the first 12 years. Those are valid questions, but they can only relate to morality. They are not issues of legality. It is we as the people who have to decide whether that is a character that we want representing us as a collective, as a people. Is that the Nigerian president? That is the point when because if we pretend not to know, the rest of the world are well aware of what we are fooling ourselves not to see. So it's a function of moral suasion. If people are persuaded that they have no problem with having a person of questionable character as the president, that's their call, really. That's sometimes the ugliness of democracy. But when it comes to the issue of if that is sufficient as a bar, I do not believe it is.
Well, that's Mr. Dele Farotimi. Let me allow you, Mr. Keyamo, to react briefly to what Mr. Farotimi said. There is another view that I would like you to listen to also. Mr. Keyamo.
I wish you brought a more neutral opinion. That's That individual, I think he speaks for the Labour Party, so they are our rivals. But his opinion really, well, he got half of it right to say there's no conviction. But he went off again the rail when he said there was an indictment. There cannot be an indictment if Asiwaju is not a defendant or was not a defendant to that case. I repeat it for the opt-in time. I don't want to sound like a broken record here. Asiwaju was not a party to that case. He was not. He was not a defendant to that case. It was just accounts that were sued, not him. Accounts in his name that were sued. So how could you indict him if there was no account? Then secondly,
how many accounts are we talking about?
10 accounts.
How many accounts are we talking about?
10 accounts, 10 accounts. In 3 banks. In 3 banks.
In one person's name. How modest?
No, not in one person. Not in one person. They were once linked to his mother.
I just asked you how many accounts belonging here.
He took responsibility for all of them because they were all Tinubu family and all that. His mother was there, his companies were there, his brother was there. He just took responsibility for all of them. And at the end of the day, they now pleaded with him when settling that, please don't come against us if it was found that we wrongly seized your account in the first place. I said, look at paragraph 6, page 2 of the settlement signed by the lawyers. They were appealing to Asiwaju. They were begging him, please don't come against us. Just let us go. Take us and let us go. And so it was him giving them indemnity. Don't forget, it was not the other way around that they were telling him, go and sin no more. No, he was the one telling them, go and sin no more. He was the one. Read it. The documents are there before Nigerians can read.
Just a moment. You're saying forfeiture is not a punishment. But don't you think that it's a penalty? I mean, for you to forfeit, is it not a penalty?
No. Penalty is, penalty is when they take something belonging to you and they say, look, they are imposing a fine or penalty on you. Forfeiture is that, look, this thing we think is our tax. Look at paragraph 38 now. They say it's tax. What belongs to them, they are just taking out. So you can go. They just took what belongs to them.
So I'd like to ask you again, Mr. Keyamo.
Yes.
At this period in time when this case was heard, was this the period at all that Bola Tinubu was in office? Was this period, does it cross into any time that he was in office?
No, it was not.
Okay.
It was not in office.
I'll allow you again to listen to yet another view on this one. You've dismissed that one. Although I don't agree with you on the matter that the forfeiture is in any way. So if it's not a punishment, a penalty, what exactly is it? Is it a praise singing or what exactly would you describe it? Well, I'll allow you to respond after you listen to Anthony Ehilebo, who is also a lawyer but a member of the PDP.
You know the cause and effect of the particular kind of drug that is mentioned in this case. Heroin is a class A drug. There's almost no comeback from it for addicts. Addicts are usually known to die, and then there's a high death rate amongst users. So we're looking at an offense or perhaps a crime that has devastated and destroyed a lot of lives. I personally think that this is one scandal too many. I mean, there was an attempt by the director of new media, Femi Fani-Kayode, of the Asiwaju Tinubu campaign organization to make a rebuttal. And quite frankly, all anybody needed to do was to go back to his time as a member of the Presidential Campaign Council of the PDP, where he had brought up these same allegations. So it's a lingering one, and it's more poignant now that we now have certified true copies of the court's documents that indicted this man a while back. And it speaks to the character of who would want to be the president of Nigeria. I'm sure we're sticking to facts, so we will not delve into the realm of the causatory exploration that the now very popular Lone Ranger journalist, David Hundeyin, has gone through in terms of trying to even bring it back to Nigeria and show some sort of linkage with known drug dealers in Nigeria.
All right, Mr. Keyamo, as we wrap up now, I'd like you to respond to that. But also, perhaps I should read the meaning of forfeiture. Part of the dictionary meaning of forfeiture is the loss or giving up of something as a penalty for wrongdoing. In the United States, in the dimension of what you have explained tonight is criminal in nature. But let me allow you to, as we wrap up, let me allow you to respond to that, because Nigerians are in the judge of whatever you're saying tonight.
Sure, that's why I said if you bring yourself into the issue, you said you were not bring yourself, you are expressing your personal opinion. You say you don't agree with me. That's why I said you should take a paper and a biro, because you are talking with a prosecutor of more than a decade.
The meaning
of the best of the best institutions in Nigeria. So that's why I said if you are bringing yourself into the picture, take a paper and a biro, and I will lecture you on this.
Just
now I'll go to answer your question. Let me answer your question. Let me answer your question.
Just a moment.
Because you are interposing your opinion. No, you are interposing your opinion. If you want to interpose your opinion, come and sit down here. You're arguing with me.
No.
You are not asking questions. You are arguing with me. But you are arguing with me, you are not asking the question.
What the dictionary says is different.
So the dictionary definition is different from legal definition. You see, that's why I said I should lecture you. You cannot read a dictionary definition to legal terms. Those who know legal terms know that the dictionary definition don't apply to legal terms. Well, let me explain to you, please. Don't bring yourself into the issue. I will lecture you on this. Now, let me be clear about this. Yes, let me be clear about this. What the other person said, the last person said, what the last person said is completely even off the mark. The earlier individual, the earlier person you mentioned, you played his tape, was even making more sense. This one totally went off the rail. He was talking about the effect of heroin and the effect of... What has that got to do with what we are saying about? You are even crossing... He's coming to the conclusion before even reaching the process to get to the conclusion. Who is talking about the type of narcotics or the type of heroin? So I have no response to that last individual. He went totally off the mark. But let me say this clearly, Shehu, that I will repeat it for the opt-in time. And like I said, I apologize for being immodest, but I had to stake my reputation, stake my career, stake my years of experience as a prosecutor, stake all my years in practice. I'm not a property lawyer. I was a practitioner and a prosecutor. And all my records are there to see. And I'm telling you confidently, there is nothing in these documents, nothing in these papers that indict Asiwaju, that brings a criminal charge against him, that even finds a criminal charge against him, that the foundation upon which any plea bargain or any kind of fine was reached. There was nothing like that. It was just a matter of, please, this money in your account, we need to take our tax, take your money and go. And they appealed to him, say, please don't bring any, give us guarantee that you will not proceed against us. Give us indemnity. And he gave them indemnity when they gave him his money. That is what this case is all about. It's a storm in a teacup. It's a storm, I repeat it for the opt-in time. It's a storm in a teacup. And at the end of the day, Nigerians will know. In fact, this one, Nigerians know that he was being vilified unfairly. He has been accused unfairly. And I'm happy these things came out so that Nigerians will even see it for what it is. He was never a defendant in that case. Read it again. Look at all the papers. Asiwaju was never a defendant. It was the accounts that were attached, not him as a person.
Well, thank you so much, Mr. Festus Keyamo, for your time tonight. I mean, I reported you being a lawyer in the courtroom severally in Lagos. I won't be surprised any less for your arguments tonight and the manner of your approach. You are always very, how would I put it now? You're very, very activated lawyer in the courtroom, which you have brought to bear. I mean, this is not about the journalists. It's about you politicians and what you want the people to believe. And so we have given you the opportunity to explain to Nigerians, and they are the judge tonight. Thank you so much, Mr. Keyamo. And Nigerians, you've heard him, and you've heard the side of Bola Tinubu tonight. And that's our show tonight, everyone. Many thanks for watching. I'm Shunwa Kimaloe. God bless Nigeria.